In the competitive world of Chinese electric vehicles
It's looking for a spot.
that are going further and costing less than ever before, no company makes or sells more than BYD, the Chinese giant taking on Tesla, offering cars for as little as $10,000.
Something massive just happened, and almost nobody noticed. The price of an electric vehicle battery just crossed the most important threshold in the history of the car industry. And it's about to cross another one that changes everything. In 2020, an EV battery cost $137 per kilowatt-hour. That meant the battery alone for a small city car cost $5,500. A $15,000 electric car? Impossible. The math didn't work. The battery ate the budget. In 2024, China broke the $100 barrier. Average pack prices hit $97 per kilowatt-hour. For the first time in history, an EV battery cost less than $100. And in 2025, Chinese packs dropped to $84. The lowest price ever observed for a stationary storage pack? $50. Now here's where it gets wild. By 2027, 3 technologies are converging that will push pack prices below $60 per kilowatt-hour. Sodium-ion batteries that use salt instead of lithium, Blade batteries that turn cells into the car's skeleton, and solid-state designs that charge in 5 minutes and weigh half as much. When a 40 kilowatt-hour battery costs $2,400 instead of $5,500, the $15,000 electric car isn't a concept. It's math. BYD is already selling one for $9,700. Renault is building one for $21,000. Volkswagen is targeting $22,000. Tata is at $10,000 in India. And the batteries powering these cars are about to get 30 to 40% cheaper. Stay for the full breakdown. Because what's happening right now isn't just an EV story. It's the end of the gas car as we know it. $137 in 2020, $84 in 2025, $60 by 2027. The battery that was too expensive to build a cheap car? It just became cheap enough to kill the gas engine. Section 2. The cost curve that changes everything.
The cost of lithium iron phosphate batteries has plummeted this year. No one's been talking about this, but we just found out this new information. It's some pretty shocking numbers, and this will drastically change the entire global energy industry and, of course, the EV industry as well.
Let's start with the numbers, because this story is really about one chart. And once you see it, you'll understand why every car company on the planet is panicking. 2020, $137 per kilowatt-hour globally. The pandemic was ending. Battery prices had fallen 89% from 2010. Everyone thought $100 was just around the corner. Then 2022 happened. Lithium prices exploded. Nickel spiked. Cobalt went through the roof. For the first time ever, battery prices went up instead of down. $151 per kilowatt-hour. The industry hit reverse, but the correction was brutal and fast. 2023, $139, 2024, $115 globally, $97 in China. That's the number that matters. $97. China broke the $100 barrier for passenger EV packs. Not for stationary storage, not for buses, for cars. The cheapest packs on the planet crossed the line that analysts said would trigger mass adoption. And in 2025, Chinese packs dropped another 13% to $84. The global average settled at $108. Stationary storage packs, which use simpler, lower-density LFP chemistry, hit $50 per kilowatt-hour. That's not a typo. $50. Now here's the projection. 2026. $105 globally, $78 in China. 2027, $92 globally, and $60 to $70 in China. By 2027, the battery for a 40 kilowatt-hour city car will cost $3,680 at global prices. In China, $2,400. That's less than a high-end automatic transmission in a gas car, And this is where the math completely changes. Let me show you why. In 2020, the battery ate the budget. By 2027, the battery is the budget, and it costs less than a transmission. Section 3. The math that makes the $15,000 EV inevitable.
The average price of a lithium-ion battery pack has just hit a new low, stunning, well, this is a stunning record low, $108 per kilowatt hour. That's at the pack level. This is according to the latest research from Bloomberg NEF, and the findings are absolutely phenomenal. Prices fell by 8% in the last year alone. Now, you might be thinking, who cares about a single digit? But this happened despite two massive headwinds: rising battery metal costs and the slow, expensive ramp-up of local battery production in North America and Europe.
Every vehicle is made of two things: the battery and everything else. Engineers call everything else the glider: the chassis, the motor, the interior, the wheels, the software. To build a $15,000 car, you need a manufacturing cost of about $12,500 with a margin for the dealer and the manufacturer. Here's the formula. Vehicle price equals battery cost plus glider cost plus margin. In 2018, at $200 per kilowatt hour, a 40 kilowatt hour battery cost $8,000. That left $4,500 for the glider. You can't build a street-legal car for $4,500? Impossible. In 2025, at $100 per kilowatt hour, the battery costs $4,000. Glider budget, $8,500. Tight, but possible if you're BYD and you make 75% of your components in-house. In 2027, at $60 per kilowatt hour with sodium-ion or advanced LFP, the battery costs $2,400. Glider budget, $10,100. That's not tight, that's comfortable. You can build a safe, feature-rich, well-equipped city car for $10,000 in glider costs. BYD is already doing it with the Seagull at $9,700 retail in China. The shift from $100 to $60 per kilowatt hour doesn't just make the $15,000 EV possible, it makes it inevitable. Because at $60, the battery is no longer the constraint, the glider is. And gliders are a solved problem. The car industry has been optimizing them for 100 years. At $200 per kilowatt hour, the $15,000 EV was a fantasy. At $100, it was barely possible. At $60, it's just math, and the math always wins. Section 4. The 3 batteries making it happen.
Geely have just revealed their new battery. It is the Golden Brick Battery 2.0. And it's a little complicated, this story. I'm going to simplify it for you because there's a lot of details here. I've spent a lot of time actually researching this and comparing this new battery to the BYD Blade Battery 2.0.
Sodium-ion, the salt battery. The first technology driving costs below $60 is sodium-ion. And the idea is almost absurdly simple. Instead of lithium, which is scarce, expensive, and concentrated in a handful of countries, you use sodium, salt, the 6th most abundant element on Earth, available everywhere, costs almost nothing. CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, has already begun commercial production of sodium-ion cells. Their Generation 1 cell delivers 160 watt-hours per kilogram, lower than premium lithium-ion, but here's what makes it special for budget cars. It charges to 80% in just 15 minutes. It retains over 90% capacity at -20 degrees Celsius. Even at -40, temperatures where lithium-ion batteries basically shut down, sodium-ion still delivers 90% of its power. For cold climate countries, that's a game changer. Generation 2 is targeting above 200 watt-hours per kilogram by 2027. That closes the gap with LFP entirely. 400 to 500 kilometers of range, 3,000 to 10,000 cycle life, and estimated pack costs of $50 to $60 per kilowatt hour at scale. CATL has already confirmed sodium-ion packs will power the Chery iCar brand and commercial electric vans under their Tektrans platform. But the real innovation isn't the chemistry, it's the factory. CATL has developed a water-based production line that eliminates NMP, a toxic, expensive solvent used in traditional electrode manufacturing. By switching to water, they cut factory capital costs by 25% and total production costs by 15%. Cheaper chemistry, cheaper factory, cheaper battery, salt, water-based manufacturing, $50 per kilowatt hour. CATL didn't just change the battery, they changed how you build the factory. BYD's Blade battery. The car is the battery. The second technology is BYD's Blade battery, and it's not really about chemistry at all. It's about architecture. BYD uses standard LFP chemistry, lithium iron phosphate, no cobalt, no nickel, about 20% cheaper than premium NMC cells. But the real cost advantage comes from how they package it. The Blade battery uses a cell-to-pack design where the cells themselves act as structural beams inside the battery pack. No modules, no heavy framing. The long, thin blade format increases space utilization by over 50% compared to conventional designs. The cells pass the nail penetration test without fire or smoke. And BYD's pack costs have dropped to approximately $55 to $60 per kilowatt hour, the cheapest automotive battery packs in the world. But BYD's real weapon is vertical integration. They make 75% of the vehicle's components in-house. Battery cells, power electronics, semiconductors, even the seats. A UBS teardown of the Seagull showed that BYD's bill of materials is 25% lower than comparable European EVs. That's how they sell a car with 405 kilometers of range for $9,700. They sold 200,000 Seagulls in 7 months. And the next generation Blade targets another 15% cost reduction with energy density reaching 210 watt-hours per kilogram, pushing LFP into territory traditionally reserved for nickel-based cells. BYD doesn't just make cheap batteries, they make cheap everything. And when you control 75% of the supply chain, $9,700 is a business, not a charity. Solid state, the right-sizing revolution. The third technology won't win on price, not yet. Solid-state batteries currently cost $120 to $140 per kilowatt hour. That's more expensive than LFP or sodium-ion. So why does it matter for the $15,000 EV? Because of weight. A solid-state battery with 400 watt-hours per kilogram is roughly twice as energy dense as LFP. That means a vehicle could use a 20 kilowatt-hour pack to achieve the same range as a 40 kilowatt-hour LFP pack, while weighing 150 kilograms less. Less weight means a smaller motor. Lighter suspension, smaller brakes. The savings cascade through every system in the vehicle. And solid state eliminates expensive components. No liquid cooling system, removing pumps, hoses, and cooling plates that typically add 20% to a pack's cost and weight. No dry rooms needed in the factory. No toxic solvent recovery. Manufacturing gets simpler, not more complex. Donut Lab claims sub $130 per kilowatt hour for their solid-state cells, with VTT verified 5-minute charging. Even at $140, a right-sized 20 kilowatt-hour solid-state pack would cost $2,800. That's actually comparable to a 40 kilowatt-hour sodium-ion pack at $60 per kilowatt-hour, $2,400. The pack costs converge, but the solid-state car weighs 150 kilograms less and charges in 5 minutes instead of 15. Solid-state won't power the cheapest $15,000 EVs, but it will power the $15,000 EVs that feel like $30,000 cars. Sodium-ion wins on price. BYD wins on integration. Solid-state wins on weight. Together, they kill the gas engine. Section 5. Who's actually building the $15,000 EV? This isn't theoretical. Cars are being built right now at these price points. Let's go through the lineup. BYD Seagull, $9,700 in China. 30 to 39 kilowatt-hours LFP Blade battery. Up to 405 kilometers range. 200,000 sold in 7 months. This is the benchmark. Renault Twingo EV, launching 2026. 27.5 kilowatt-hours CATL LFP pack. 263 kilometers range. Target price, $21,000 in Europe. The battery represents about 35% of the vehicle price. At 2027 pack costs, that percentage drops to 25%. Volkswagen ED.EVERY1, targeting $22,000. About 35 kilowatt-hours, 250 kilometers range. PowerCo LFP cells manufactured in Europe. VW's answer to the Seagull. Citroën EC3, $25,000. 44 kilowatt-hours CATL LFP. 320 kilometers range. Already on sale in Europe, the most range in this price bracket. Tata Tiago EV, $10,000 in India, 19 to 24 kilowatt-hours. Up to 315 kilometers range. Tata Punch EV at $11,500 with up to 468 kilometers. India is building the absolute floor of EV pricing. Wuling Bingo, $8,500 in China. 17 to 32 kilowatt-hours Goshen LFP. Up to 333 kilometers range. Cheaper than a used Corolla. Every one of these cars exists today or launches within 12 months. Everyone uses LFP chemistry, and everyone will benefit from the cost curve we just described. When pack prices hit $60 to $70, these cars don't get cheaper. They get better, more range, faster charging, better interiors, at the same price. 6 manufacturers, 3 continents. Price range, $8,500 to $25,000. The $15,000 E-Fi isn't coming. It's already here. Section 6. The bigger picture. This isn't just about cars. It's about power, economic power, geopolitical power, and literal electrical power. Right now, lithium is concentrated in Australia, Chile, and Argentina. Cobalt comes from the Congo. And China refines 60% of the world's lithium and 80% of its cobalt. If your battery depends on lithium and cobalt, your supply chain runs through Beijing. Sodium-ion changes that equation overnight. Sodium comes from salt. Hard carbon comes from biomass. Both are available everywhere on Earth. No mining in conflict zones. No dependence on any single country. The US Inflation Reduction Act already offers $45 per kilowatt-hour in production tax credits for domestic batteries, $35 for cells, $10 for modules. That's a 30 to 40% cost reduction for any battery made in America. Combined with sodium-ion chemistry, that makes US manufactured packs competitive with Chinese imports for the first time. Europe is playing a different card. The EU battery regulation requires a battery passport starting in 2025, a full carbon footprint and recycled content disclosure for every battery sold. This favors LFP and sodium-ion over complex cobalt-nickel chemistries that have dirtier mining footprints and are harder to recycle. And then there's charging infrastructure. The standard critique, not enough chargers. But here's the math nobody talks about. If an average EV takes 30 minutes to charge at 2C, a single charger serves 2 cars per hour. If the battery supports 5C charging, like CATL's next-gen packs or Donut Labs solid state, the charge time drops to 12 minutes. Same charger now serves 5 cars per hour. That's a 2.5 times throughput multiplier on existing infrastructure. You effectively double your charging network without installing a single new station. For 1,000 EVs, at 30-minute charge sessions, you need about 100 chargers. At 12-minute sessions, you need 40. That's 60 fewer chargers. Multiply that by every city, every highway, every country. The infrastructure savings are in the billions. sodium-ion breaks the lithium supply chain. Fast charging multiplies the infrastructure. And suddenly, the two biggest arguments against EVs disappear at the same time. Section 7. What this means and what could go wrong. So, here's what we know. Battery pack prices have fallen 89% since 2010. China has already broken $84 per kilowatt-hour. Sodium-ion is targeting $50 to $60 by 2027. BYD is selling a 405-kilometer car for $9,700. And the math for a $15,000 electric car with 300 kilometers of range now works on 3 continents. The IEA projects BEV sales growing 18% per year through 2030. In China, every second car sold is already electric. When models like the Twingo and Seagull reach volume in Europe and Southeast Asia, that pattern repeats. The used gas car market faces a structural decline. The total cost of ownership of a new $15,000 EV is already lower than a used petrol car in many markets. But 5 things could slow this down. 1. Raw material volatility. Lithium carbonate is at $15,000 per ton, down from $70,000 in 2022. If it spikes again, the cost curve stalls. 2. Solid-state manufacturing yields. If companies like Donut Lab can't hit 95% yields at scale, initial solid-state costs stay high. 3. Tariffs. The US has 100% plus tariffs on Chinese EVs. If the EU follows, the cheapest cars stay locked in China. 4. Consumer psychology. Will buyers accept slightly lower range from sodium-ion? Or does range anxiety still push them toward more expensive lithium packs? 5. Grid capacity. Can urban power grids handle millions of cars charging at 5C without massive grid storage investments? But here's the thing about cost curves. They don't reverse. They don't negotiate. They don't care about politics or psychology. In 2010, a kilowatt-hour cost $1,100. Today, it costs $84 in China. By 2027, it'll cost $60. The only question is how fast, not whether. The $15,000 electric car was a pipe dream in 2020. It's a prototype in 2025. And by 2027, it's just a car, the cheapest car you can buy. And nobody will remember what the gas version cost. Cost curves don't reverse. They don't negotiate. $1,100 in 2010, $60 in 2027. The gas engine doesn't die in a crash. It dies on a spreadsheet. Subscribe and hit that bell. The next video breaks down whether Donut Lab's solid-state battery is real or the most sophisticated hype campaign in battery history. Drop your prediction in the comments. When will you be able to buy a $15,000 EV where you live? And which battery chemistry will power it?